Shall we go over what we were doing last time?
I don't think it hurts.
All right. Here we go. We got to the section of chapter 11 on composing a counterpoint to the bass line. So this is our top voice, yes? So they give us some guidelines in this unit, and there are quite a few of them that they say are not as arbitrary as they may seem. Some of them pertain only to tonal counterpoint, but others would hold true for counterpoint in any period or style of music. Four categories of the guidelines. Category 1, features of the melodic line. Category 2, beginnings and endings. Category 3, harmonic intervals. Category 4, types of motions. Are we remembering all this? Features of the melodic line, and they give us like 12 things. Contour, we want to be conjunct rather than disjunct. Variety is preferred over redundancy. That was brought to you by the Redundancy Department of Redundancy. But avoid reusing the same pitches again and again. Pitch repetition, don't repeat more than twice, and don't do it across a bar line. Directionality, don't let it go only one way too much. Focal point, we still need a focal point. Range, no less than a fifth, no more than a tenth. You remember that? Take care of your leading tone and resolve it properly. Except when going do, ti, la. Do, ti, la is okay. And when you have the subtonic, remind me what the subtonic is.
Flatted seventh.
Yeah, we have to be careful with that word, flatted. I'm going to use the word that they use, lowered, because sometimes it's going to be a natural sign Pete rather than a flat, because it might have been sharp. You with me? Cool. Melodic minor, use melodic minor when you can. That gives us 9 pitches and adds to our variety, right? Melodic intervals should be, we should avoid diminished and augmented intervals with the exceptions of scale degree 3 to raise scale degree 7, which gives us a diminished fourth in minor. And scale degree 4 to raise scale degree 7, which gives us a diminished fifth in minor, which are acceptable. Leaps. We need to precede leaps, isolated large leaps, with motion in the opposite direction, and follow it by motion in the opposite direction. Here comes the plane. Do you hear it? Has it gotten to your house yet?
Got gardeners.
Consecutive leaps in the same direction. We want no more than 2 consecutive leaps. And when you have 2 consecutive leaps in the same direction, you should proceed and follow by a pair of leaps by motion in the opposite direction. 2 consecutive leaps in the same direction should span a fifth or sixth or an octave. Proceed and follow the pair by motion in the opposite directions. Then we went over all the errors. Do you remember this? Some of them are easy. Jumping all over the place. Too many of the same pitches. 3 of the same pitch and across the bar line. Going one way. No focal point. They stayed within the span of a fourth. Didn't take care of our leading tone. We didn't go to melodic minor. Ascending. We have problematic leaps. And we didn't do the pre-leap and the post-leap care. Same. Didn't span the right amount of length. All right. Did we criticize these already? Monday was so long ago. Yeah, we did. Remember, we're supposed to put the numbers on the sides. I think we're here. Beginnings and endings, which is category 2. Yes? Got the talkative bunch. Just need to tone it down a little bit. All right. Beginnings and endings is category 2. Beginnings. If the first chord is a tonic harmony, begin the contrapuntal voice on any note of the tonic triad, scale degree 1, 3, or 5. If the first chord is a dominant harmony on beat 3, beginning on beat 3, begin the contrapuntal voice on any note of the 5 chord except the leading tone. Now the leading tone is the third of the 5 chord. You with me? I know that was a lot of numbers and that was really confusing.
Question about the tonic, or the fifth starting on beat 3. Is that just like axis and anacrusis? Is that the idea there?
Yeah, so remember we're being restricted right now in that we are doing only half notes. So we are doing half notes on beats 1 and 3. They're specifically saying if you start with a dominant, do not begin on beat 1, begin on beat 3. Yeah. And then we were saying whoa. Why? So they're saying, and here we are in the key of C major, if we have a dominant chord, the third of that dominant chord is scale degree 7. You with me? I saw some light bulbs go on. So what they're saying is don't start on that pitch. Is that what they're saying? Yeah. So don't start on that pitch. Cadences. End each phrase with one of the following 3 cadence types: a pack, an iac in root position, or a half cadence. Avoid using scale degree 5 above the final tonic in major or minor in an iac. If you are writing a period, give the second phrase a stronger cadence than the first. Use smooth voice leading when writing cadences. Remember that all of these cadences should be placed so that the final chord is located on beat 1. And don't forget to write your mom. Man, there was a lot of things in there. Just a joke, Claire. Forget it. It was horrible. Nobody got it. Oh, I'm sorry, Claire. I confused you, and it was like, what? Where is that? They just threw so many things in there, didn't they? There was like, don't forget to eat your vegetables and write your mom. And Don't mix drugs and alcohol, and all these little tidbits of life advice was in there, and I just threw write your mom in there. Sorry, didn't mean to confuse everybody. All right, so let's break that down because there was a lot. All right, we had into each phrase with one of these cadence types. I mean, they could have at least bullet pointed them so make it a little more clearly seen.
I know.
Then there was avoid using scale degree 5 over the final tonic in an IAC in major or minor. Then there was if you're writing a period, give the second phrase a stronger cadence than the first phrase. To me, that's common sense, but, okay. Then there was use smooth voice leading. Well, why wouldn't we? Another kind of duh. And then there was remember that all of these cadences should be placed so the final chord is located on beat 1. So I got like 4 things at least out of there 5 things at least out of there, and most of them are does. Are we all right with that? Why the 5 over the 1?
Why not, I guess I'm trying to say.
Okay, yeah, so let's go back to what is an IAC.
Oh, inverted? Or just imperfect in this case?
It's imperfect, right?
Or it doesn't have the tonic in the soprano.
Yeah, and it just sounds kind of lame. It's not very complete. I mean, you could hear it. You hear it in church music once in a while. I like to think of it as frustrating the sopranos, right? They want that dough. They need that dough. They have to have that dough. So just like frustrating your leading tone, you can frustrate your sopranos and not give them their dough. They're saying, give the children what they want. Make them happy. It just doesn't sound as good, right? All right. Are we all right? Can we go on to category 3? Any other questions? Harmonic intervals. These guidelines refer to the intervals between the 2 inner voices that occur as the counterpoint proceeds. Each species has its own conventions related to harmonic intervals. The following list refers only to one-to-one counterpoint. Here's another duh for you. Chord tones. Use chord tones. Don't use tones that don't belong to the chord. All right. Every chord, every note in the contrapuntal voice, like those in the bass line, should correspond to the given chord label. That is, they should be chord tones.
What if I put parentheses around it?
Thank you, Captain Obvious, for telling us we should use chord tones. That is not allowed in one-to-one counterpoint. But I'm pretty sure we're going to see that in one of the future species. In fact, I know because our next chapter is all about non-chord tones. I think it's chapter 12. Stay tuned. It's coming. You get to learn about anticipations and neighbor tones and upper neighbor tones, passing tones, all that good stuff. It's coming. Complete with another Doc B Instagram post. No, you're non-chord tones. It's coming. All right. 2, consonances. Because only root position and first inversion triads will appear in these phrases, Only consonant intervals, unisons, thirds, fifths, sixths, and octaves will be used as harmonic intervals. Avoid all dissonant harmonic intervals, including seconds, fourths, sevenths, and all augmented and diminished intervals. Remember that the perfect fourth is a dissonance in two-voice counterpoint and should be avoided. So you think that the fourth is one of the good guys because it's perfect, but it's not. Cool? Unisons. Avoid unisons except if needed at the beginning and or end of the counterpoint. So don't start and end on the same pitch. We're talking 4-part here, right? You with me? Pretty sure?
No.
No, you're not with me, or no, we're not talking about 4-part.
Well, you just said 2-part in number 2, so why are we talking about 4-part in number 3?
Where did I say?
Yeah, they at the end of number 2 they said
Yeah.
in the two voice.
Guidelines refer to the intervals between two voices.
Okay, so these guidelines refer to the intervals between the two voices that occur. Now I'm confused. Let's fast forward. Okay, so I misunderstood that. So we are talking about two voices, and we're not supposed to start on the same unisons or end on the same unisons. But we're also not supposed to end on scale degree 5 over an imperfect cadence.
So
Cool, are we all right? Go ahead.
Just use 3 when in doubt.
1 and 3. Yep, 1 and 3. All right, imperfect versus perfect consonances. Imperfect consonances, thirds and sixths, have a more pleasing sound in the tonal style and should predominate over perfect consonances, unisons, fifths, and octaves, especially in the middle of the phrase. Avoid using more than 1 or 2 perfect consonances in the middle of the phrase. So thirds and sixths are good. And we should hear more thirds and sixths than we should unisons, fifths, and octaves, especially in the middle. But don't use more than 1 or 2 perfect consonances in the middle.
What's a perfect consonance?
A fourth, fifth, unison, a fifth, or an octave. You with me?
Yeah.
All right. Melodic minor and harmonic progression. In minor keys, use the melodic minor, and you may change the triad qualities of the chords as needed to accommodate this. So your Roman numerals are going to change if you use the raised scale degrees. You with me?
No.
All right. For example, given the chord progression 1-4-5-1, using scale degree 5, raised 6, raised 7, scale degree 8 in the upper voice, that will require that the Roman numerals be changed to 1, minor 1, major 4, major 5, minor 1.
Okay. Like changing a 4 to 6.
Say that again.
I thought they were talking about changing a 4 to a 6 instead of just making it major or minor.
So because I raised scale degree 6 by naturaling it, that caused my Roman numeral go from a minor 4 to a major 4. With me? That's all they're saying. When you raise those pitches, your Roman numerals can change and should change. Avoid awkward doublings. Avoid doubling the bass pitch in the upper voice whenever a 1-6, 4-6, or 5-6 chord is used in major or minor. In the case of the 5-6 chord, this pitch is the leading tone, which should never be doubled. The other doublings are awkward and should also be avoided. So don't double when you're in first inversion on 1, 4, and 5 chords. Are we okay with that category? I feel like we went over this, but I feel like this is a good review. Are we okay with that? Yeah.
Doubling, how could you do it in any sort of like,
if you double the first inversion chord, you would also be double. You'd also have a unison, right?
oh, okay.
You'd be breaking 2 rules.
Yeah.
Double jeopardy. You get 2 punishments. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, it took a little longer for it to percolate.
No worries. I'm still processing all of this. All right. Types of motion. It is important to consider the relationship between the contrapuntal voice and the bass line in order to maintain the relative independence of the 2 parts. In general, follow basic guidelines for the treatment of outer voices as given in Chapter 5 under parallel motion. Oh, let's click on it.
It doesn't take you to the
Doesn't take it where it's supposed to.
right.
Rhythm, harmony, contour. Do you remember this? This was good times last semester. Have a focal point, avoid limits. Do you remember all this Chapter 5 stuff?
This part, yep.
Yeah. That was some good times, Chapter 5. Look how much you've grown since Chapter 5. You're getting so big. You're getting so big too. You're growing like a weed. He hissed at me. All right.
Makes you feel proud.
Back to Chapter 11. Avoid parallel and contrary perfect consonances. Avoid direct fifths and octaves. Employ a variety of motion types: contrary motion, parallel motion of imperfect consonances, similar motion, and oblique motion. And give preference to contrary motion. Here are some additional guidelines for moving from one harmonic interval to the next in 1-to-1 counterpoint. Number 1. How many are there? Oh my goodness. There's 6. Number 1, static motion. If one voice repeats a pitch, the other voice should move. In other words, static motion should not be used in one-to-one counterpoint. What's static motion again? You've probably forgotten, but this is the...
no movement?
Right. This is the part where we related the subject material to your life. And we talked about you and your friends after high school.
Okay.
And we talked about static motion is when you and your friend did nothing and just sat around on the couch. They're saying avoid that. So they're saying static motion is when one of you sits on the couch and does nothing, and the other one of you decides, I'm going to make something of my life. I'm going to go enroll in City College. So at least one of you should be doing something, you and your friends. You with me? All right, parallel imperfect consonances. Those are fine, but avoid using more than 3/3 or 3/6 in a row. So parallel imperfect consonances are when you and your friend both move in the same direction, the same interval, in an imperfect interval, which would be a third or a sixth.
Are these more restrictions, I suppose, for now? Or
These are guidelines, additional guidelines. So yes, you can take them and put them in your round circular file. No, I would follow them. Did that answer your question?
yeah, I suppose. I was just wondering, because they're restricting a lot for now because
Yeah.
of all the movies.
Training wheels, they're fun. I was listening to a comedian the other day. He says, I had training wheels on my front tire and my back tire. I was driving a 6-wheel as a 6-year-old. All right. Direct fifths and octaves. I think this is where we left off last time, maybe. We want, if there's similar motion, meaning we're moving the same direction, between voices into a perfect fifth or perfect eighth, recall that the upper voice must move by step. A special case is that in which both voices move upward into a perfect octave. Here, the top voice must move by a half step to be acceptable. So, this is poor because why? Both move similar motion into a fifth, but the soprano did not move by step. It moved by leap. Here we're fine because we went by step into a fifth. Here we are not fine because we moved by leap to a fifth. Here we're fine because we moved by step into a fifth. Here we are not fine because we moved to an octave, but our soprano moved by step and not half step. It has to be a half step because we have an E flat in our key signature. Here we are fine because we moved by half step because we have a B flat in our key signature. Here we are not fine because we moved by a skip in the soprano to an octave in the same direction. Here we are fine Why are we fine here? Because we moved downward by an octave not upward,
No.
where we need the half step. We move downward and we can move a whole step. Are we okay with example 11-9?
I'm sorry, did you say when you move down you can move?
By
You're
a whole
moving into
step.
an octave, you can move, okay, even into an octave?
Yeah, but when you move upward to an octave, top voice has to have a half step.
Okay. C to B is oh, it's in
B flat because of the
B
key
flat.
signature.
Got it.
I like how it says they're just fine. There's no good in it. It's just fine.
Fine or poor.
There's like other examples. They're like, this is fine, but these are good. There's nothing good about it.
And then sometimes they give you a question mark. Okay, voice crossing. Avoid it. Do not allow your voices to cross. As example 11-10 shows, voice crossing occurs when the contrapuntal voice momentarily moves below the bass line. Don't do it. No! The sopranos get insanely jealous if someone else has a higher voice than they do. Don't do it. Okay. Overlapping. Overlapping is also to be avoided. It's similar to voice crossing. It occurs when the bass voice rises up above where the upper voice was in the previous chord, or when the upper voice dips below where the bass was in the previous chord. Most examples of voice crossing also involve overlapping. Label such instances as voice crossing. So sopranos had a B flat, then they go to C, then they go to D. Basses had a G, then they go to the C, which is higher than the soprano's last note. That's overlapping, which we're going to label voice crossing, but we're going to avoid it. Here the basses had a B flat, and then in the next pitch, the sopranos thought that they could be cool and be lower than the basses. What? No, that is not allowed. Do we get overlapping? It's kind of confusing, but do you get it? Questions? Private messages in the chat.
Why are does it have to be overlapping in the same measure?
No, but I guess it could be across the bar line, but it has to be the one chord to the next chord. Does that make sense?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, from one chord, the previous chord to the next chord, yeah. Other questions? All right. Simultaneous leaps. Avoid having both parts use large leaps. Fourths or larger. Simultaneously in the same direction, as shown in example 11-12. So we don't want large leaps that are bigger than a fourth simultaneously in the same direction in both voices. So here our soprano goes from B flat to E flat, and our bass goes from D to G. Both of those are a fourth in the same direction. Don't do it. And they ended on a unison like they told us not to. Awesome.
Why did they write? I'm assuming that they're Roman numerals, but they're not in Roman numerals. In the middle of the.
They are not. They are not Roman numerals. They are the distance between both notes, but they are reduced to the interval under an octave. So let me draw on this and show you. B flat to D is a third. Here it's a third plus an octave, which is like an 11th, right?
You use a different color.
Yeah. What color would you like?
Blue.
Blue. Blue it is.
Or purple. So you're crazy up there.
So D is an octave plus a third, but we're going to reduce it down to a third. So the distance between the bass pitch and the soprano pitch is a third. With me?
Yeah.
And then the next one's an octave, the next one's a sixth, the next one's a sixth. So they're just showing you the distance between the two notes.
Hey, Doc, didn't they say that you could use unison at the beginning or at the end?
Perhaps I misread it. I thought you could not. Let's go back and look. Fine, I'll use your search. No, I won't. It's not working.
Don't do it.
Unisons. Avoid unisons except if needed at the beginning and or end of the counterpoint. I guess we can. I swear I read somewhere not to, though.
Don't swear. Not appropriate.
It's so hard, though.
That's fine. You can swear all you want. You just have to edit it out.
I know. I don't have time to edit my videos.
Add in the censor beat in the video.
Did anybody watch my latest video? You didn't even notice the cool new feature. Man. Okay, I guess I misread it. You can have unisons if needed at the beginning. It was number 5. Hold on. No, it was number 3. Avoid unisons except at the beginning and or end of the counterpoint. All right. And that concludes this section. Next is composing the contrapuntal voice. Keeping these guidelines in mind, you should practice writing a contrapuntal voice above different bass line examples. In addition to writing the contrapuntal voice, you should, hey, here's a new list of stuff to keep track of. Number 1, write the harmonic interval numbers between each note and the corresponding note in the bass line. Reduce compound intervals to their simple equivalents. Hey, we were just talking about that. You with me? 2, you do not need to include the interval type, only the number, unless it is an augmented or diminished interval. In particular, look for all the fifths in your example and add the diminished degree symbol to them to show the diminished fifth intervals. This will help you find and correct objectionable parallel intervals. Number 3, refer to the guidelines as you work and don't be afraid to revise. This reminds me of the Harry Potter scene, right? That lady, the lady everybody hates that wears the pink, starts nailing all the rules to the wall. That's what this is right here. It's all these rules. They make no sense. We're just going to nail them to the wall and nail anybody that doesn't follow the rules. Okay. Refer to the guidelines as you work, but don't be afraid to revise. In general, relatively conjunct line moving mostly by contrary motion and parallel imperfect intervals against and forming consonants with bass line will lead to a good solution. I did not read that very well. In general, a relatively conjunct line moving mostly by contrary motion against and forming consonances with the bass line will lead to a good solution. I don't like that sentence. All right.
Can you break it down?
Sure. Generally speaking, if we're moving conjunctly and not disjunctly, and we're moving mostly by contrary motion and parallel imperfect intervals. No, I can't. Forming consonances with the bass line will lead to a good solution. Well, you know what disjunct is, right? Conjunct is smooth, right? Disjunct is... So we want to move smooth, but we don't want to be disjunct.
All over the place.
So we're going to move conjunct, mostly by contrary motion, but not... And parallel imperfect intervals. So we're going to be moving parallel. It doesn't make sense. It's a contradiction to me. Forming consonances with the bass line. It will lead to a good solution. Doesn't matter. Forget it. On we go. Writing your own harmonic progressions. In some of the exercises that follow, you will be asked to write your own progressions using the harmonic progression guidelines in Chapter 7. We're not going to click on it. You can either write out the progression entirely with root position triads, then follow the procedure from the beginning of the current chapter, or you can also include first inversions as you compose, making sure to create an effective bass line as described earlier. Does that make sense? You can either put in your first inversions now, or you can do how the book did it when they held our hand through the process and write everything in in root position, and then remind ourselves, okay, well, we got to move all of our diminished intervals to first inversion. We got to remove, remember all their guidelines? I liked their hand holding. It was nice. All right. Self-test 11-3. There's more than one acceptable answer to these exercises, so please review solutions with your instructors. Anything. All right. We are composing a good one-to-one counterpoint with the following bass line. You may either write a pack or a root position IAC as the final cadence. But if you write that first inversion, if you write that root position IAC, make sure you don't have a fifth above your tonic. Indicate the harmonic intervals formed by the two voices. All right, we're in G major. They've given us our bass line that we cannot change. What pitch should we start on and why?
Third. Because it's not a unison or a fifth.
It describes the tonic too.
Excellent. We're now going to a 3 chord. Where should we go?
Up to D.
Why would you go up to a D?
You're avoiding parallel motion.
The basses went down, so we'll go up. Next.
Don't we have to be writing interval things in
Yeah, sure. Where do you want to go next? The basses went to the E, so we can't go to the E, or we're going to have a unison.
You can go to C.
In G major, our 6th chord is?
It's an E minor.
E, G, B.
I saw it as a 4.
That's okay. I have lisdexic moments myself.
You could go to the G, but is that breaking the rules because we've gone 3/3 in a row?
I think what that rule was saying, Pete, was not to go 3 parallel thirds in a row.
Yeah.
So I think we're all right because we've had
6 in the middle mostly, so you'd have to be repeating.
Say that again.
It said that you'd have to use thirds and sixths in the middle mostly. So I had assumed that they assumed that you'd be using thirds quite a bit. And they wouldn't care if you did it consecutively.
We're all right. Let's keep going. Next, we have a 2/6.
Go to the A, I guess.
Go to the A. We can't go to the A here, or we would be repeating the same pitch across the bar line, so we have to go to
Leading zone. And after that, we would have to go to the G again.
have to resolve it. Good.
Yeah.
Next, we have a 4 chord.
Would that be a phrase right there? Like a deceptive cadence? Or is it too short? Or too...
Well, I think that in order for us to call it a deceptive cadence, it has to be clear that that was the goal of the harmonic phrase, right?
Okay.
Let's listen to it. Let's not listen to that. Now, if we were to end there or have a long note there, I think you'd have a case for it. But because everything's a half note and we just blow right through it, I don't think that that was the intended goal of the harmonic phrase. You with me? I think it just happened that we passed straight through a 5 to a 6 and went on to our 4. In G major, our 4 chord is going to be C, E, G. Is this true? We can't repeat the G across the bar line. That's a no-no. So where are we going to go?
We're going to go to the E. Either the C or the E.
Okay.
We wouldn't want to do the C because that would be a unison.
Is that bad?
Yeah, it's not good, but...
So you're telling me you want to go to the E?
E.
Then I guess
Do
G.
we have a problem because it's parallel motion? Is it supposed to be stepwise?
I don't know.
Is it a fifth apart?
The book did not do this. Say again?
It's not a fifth apart, so I don't think so. Or an octave. Is that the only times when parallel motion is discouraged?
Oh, it's in the other section. I can't get it back.
There it is.
So is there a problem with parallel thirds? I don't think there is. Let's finish it and then let's go back and do what the book did. And then we can see what you think. So next we have a 5 chord. Where are you going to go?
Going to like F sharp G would be the most logical thing. Just not the most exciting thing, but I guess my fear on that is that there's not enough variety in the melody, but that's not too bad.
You want to go F sharp G is what you said?
That would be my first thought. Because if you went up to the A, that would be a direct.
Let's listen to it. I think it's fine.
But is it?
Here's what the... There is no good. It's just fine or poor. This is what the book did. Are you ready?
Good one. So, oh no.
The book went to... Whoa. The book did do the unison.
Why is that fine?
They're not supposed to do unison there. The book did that?
Yeah. So it makes me wonder, what are we missing?
Making all these rules only to break them.
Or what rule did we miss?
Cough. Sounds like the government cough.
Is it because it's an eighth apart and not a perfect unison, like the same note?
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think it's that, because the other one, it had a 1 at the end instead of an 8, and that was obviously unison.
I like ours better.
I thought they said at the beginning not to avoid unisons except at the beginning and the end.
Yeah, but is it really unison if it's not?
If it's an octave?
Yeah.
Yes. It is a unison. Oh, no.
No, Doc.
No, yeah, Ethan's right. Well.
No, Pete was the one who mentioned, or no, not. I don't even remember who's right.
There's Ethan, Pete, me.
So here's the problem that I have. Oh, we're okay because we have contrary motion to the octave. Right? We have contrary motion to the octave and away from the octave. I just don't think it sounds as great as the one that we did. Is that horrible?
The resolving is not as final in this one.
Where did we go?
We did a pack in ours.
Yeah. Well, like the book said, there are many solutions. So I think we're okay. Either way. Until some more expert, theory teacher on YouTube tells us and helps this substitute theory teacher over here, I'm going to go with that. Cool. Clearing the screen, moving on. Compose a good bass line using the following root position progression, inverting harmonies and changing chord labels as necessary. Then compose a good one-to-one counterpoint above the bass line. Use a pack for the final cadence. Indicate the harmonic intervals formed by the two voices. So, should we do their hand-holding technique? F minor. One is going to be an F. 6 is going to be
D flat.
2 is going to be, it's going to be G, right? But we know we have to put it in first inversion, so let's just do that now. 5 is going to be
C.
1 is going to be
F.
4 is going to be
B flat.
5 is going to be
C. F.
Do you want to have that leap?
You don't like my 7th leap?
I do. I don't know if the book does.
You can just go up. No, just put the C at the top, and then we have a perfect. Not perfect.
Do you want to erase the C is what you're saying?
Yeah. So we have a nice high note.
You don't want to give the bass their glory and have the low note.
Oh,
I
wait.
was surprised you went up instead of going
Not
B
tenor.
flat C.
Do we want this?
With a C up that high, wouldn't you run the risk of potential voice crossing or overlapping?
You could.
Okay. That's why I'm kind of afraid of putting that C up there. Because then we really limit what we could do with counterpoint.
All right, so we're going to go down here. Something like that.
Or the low F, maybe?
You want the low F?
We don't have a single high note. What is it called? Focal point.
Focal point.
Hey, we need that in the bass, huh?
What if we put this up here?
Another 7th. No, if we make it the next C, the middle C, then that would be fine. But again, that would run the risk of crossing. But I guess we could cross that when we come to it.
Well, we could also put this in first inversion, couldn't we?
Yeah, we could. That particular interval would be legal, I think.
At least in some states. What does this chord specifically need?
The C.
What?
What are you asking?
I'm asking, we're in
Oh.
minor.
Okay, I get it.
And so our 5 chord needs what? To make that a major 5 chord in minor, that requires
Sharp?
Not a sharp in this case.
A
We have,
natural.
we have to raise our leading tone from E flat to E natural. You with me? Max, Zach, what do you think? Just as I suspected.
What do we
Wait.
think?
I'm so glad we're engaged with our cameras on, getting credit for being here today. Or are we?
Almost no. I'm also here.
Okay, so this is actually what the book wrote. So we weren't far off, were we? So we fixed our focal point problem. The book is doing the stems, though, in the correct. The book did go to this F, just so you know. But we don't have to do everything like the book does. Right? Okay, time to write a soprano line. Are we ready? What would you like to start with?
Third.
3.
Say again?
An A.
An A? An A flat?
Yeah.
Okay. Where are we going? Major 6. What's my major 6 options?
F and A flat.
F and A flat. Well, we can't have an A flat because it would be across the bar line. So we got to go to the F, yeah?
F, yeah.
Where do you want to go? High or low?
Low would be smoother. Right?
Yeah, smooth is low is smooth.
Always have to take the low road.
Yeah, the only other option would be to change this from the third to the 5th. And then we could go high. What do you want?
Let's go to the 5th.
Oops.
We're making it spicy now.
And maybe
All right.
we won't overlap. We won't have to. No chance of overlap.
And then we'll have bigger than a 4th.
Probably need what am I trying to say? Need a G or a D flat here.
G or D flat, where are we going to go?
D.
Want the D? Okay. You want to go to the C here?
Don't we have to be writing the interval things?
Yeah, we can. Okay, next.
A flat.
A flat. Next. Four chord we need.
F or B.
B flat, D flat, F. Where you want to go?
Think up.
Yeah.
To the B flat.
Isn't it already a B flat?
Well, that's
Does it
unison
have to
again.
be 8 and then go down with contrary motion? Or does it have to be a leap?
So that's acceptable because of the contrary motion, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
And then that tritone is also accepted. Yeah, good, natural, and then just in on the F.
That's exactly what the book did.
The whole thing.
The whole thing.
Man, we're good at this.
Are we getting the hang of this?
I think a lot of it's just using common sense rather than trying to remember every single rule.
Yeah, I agree. So looking at the workbook, can I clear my screen? So looking at the workbook, we only have 4 pages, and we went over page 1.5. We're to this part on page 93. Are we?
I think 93 is the next chapter.
I'm sorry. 89. So 89 is critique the voice leading of these things. We did that yesterday. 11-3, so compose a melody that has good one-to-one counterpoint for the bass line that you've been given. You can write either a pack or a root position IAC as the final cadence, indicate the harmonic intervals. So what we just did, and then B is what we just barely did. And that's page 90, letter B, in your workbook assignment. Are we all right with that? So, all we have left is the next section, the summary here. The study of counterpoint, the combining of relatively independent musical lines, can provide a solid basis for composing in tonal styles using principles of musically effective melodic combination in conjunction with effective tonal progressions. Some of these principles derive from a two-voice species approach, where in increasingly complex rhythmic relationships between voices, increasingly varied dissonance usage, and increasingly shorter note values are employed. So, for example, this chapter is concerned with first species counterpoint, also called one-to-one counterpoint, in two voices, in which the voices move in equal rhythmic values, in this case half notes, using only consonances. Unlike species approaches, however, our tonal counterpoint approach emphasizes major and minor scales instead of church modes, modern meters, harmonic instead of melodic cadences, and chord membership rather than intervals between voices. When writing short, unembellished bass lines using given harmonic progressions, it is important to pay attention to issues like inversion usage, contour, melodic variety, and the treatment of leaps and melodic dissonances. When writing simple contrapuntal lines with independent contours above the bass lines, principles related to the shape and constitution of the melodic line, the treatment of beginnings and endings, the types and successions of harmonic intervals employed, and the types of relative voice motion are considered. Finally, the composition of contrapuntal examples from newly composed harmonic progressions should rely upon the norms, guidelines for such progressions discussed in Chapter 7.
I'm glad
So
you
that,
go over the book with us.
say again?
I'm glad you go over the book with us. That's just a wall of text that
We got to sound nice and academic with a whole cornucopia of ideas here that makes us sound smart.
I don't have the glasses like you do, though. So,
Target. It's just Target. $20, aisle 17. Herndon and Willow. That's all it is. All right. So we've got C left in our workbook and D left in our workbook, yeah? Then we're done with this chapter. I think it's time for a test next week. What do you guys think? We haven't had a test. I don't even know where my tests are. Oh, well, we'll find a test and give you a test sometime, huh? Don't you want a test? Let me
how
see if
many
I...
chapters are we doing?
We're not doing that many. I think
Five?
through
Six?
13. Let me double check. I wrote it down in my book. Oh, we're doing through 15. So we've done 9 and 10. We're finishing 11. We'll have 12, 13, 14, 15 left. And 12 and 13 are basically the same concepts split up into 2 chapters, all on non-chord tones. Chapter 14 is all about the dominant seventh. And chapter 15 is all about other kinds of seventh chords that are not the dominant seventh. So it's kind of the same thing split up into 2 as well. So we only have 4 more chapters after this one. So we're going to make it, aren't we? Plus we have a spring break in there to recharge all of our batteries. Just don't go to like Cancun and get COVID, you know. All right, let's look at I was going to look at a test for you. It looks like I got an exam already for you. Yeah. This is cool. It's all multiple guess. I mean, multiple choice. Oh, we can't have it yet. We're going to have to put it off. We're going to have to put it off until we do the next chapter. Or maybe the next 2 chapters. So on your test, when we do it, there are 11 questions. Question number 1 has to do with Roman numeral analysis. So I give you an example and you have to analyze the Roman numerals, and you get a drop-down box with 10 answers that you get to choose from. So this will be great because your test will be graded as soon as you're done taking it. So that's question 1. Question 2 is going to be a question about 6/4 chords, as is question 3. Question 4 is all about cadence types. It's basically drop-down boxes, straight based off of the DocB Know Your Cadences Instagram post. So if you know that little table chart, you're fine. Question 5 is find the cadences, or identify the cadences in the example. Question 6 is all about parallel periods and contrasting periods and sentences. So I've given you a piece of music and you're going to diagram or select from my multiple choice diagrams which diagram best fits the example that I gave you. Question 7 is all about non-chord tones, which we'll do next chapter. And question 8 is the same. And 9 is the same, finding them in a score. Question 10 is doing the errors that we just did this chapter, the chapter 11 errors. What's wrong with the example that I gave you? And question 11 is the same. So that's my plan. We'll have that exam after the next 1 or 2 chapters. It's multiple choice exam, all done online. We cool with that? So next time what I would like to do is I would like to finish the 2 examples that we have not covered yet in the workbook, the C and the D. And then I would like to start chapter 12. Are we okay with that? So I will plan on seeing you all at ear training tomorrow, unless there's any questions. See you tomorrow.
Thanks, Doc.
All righty.
Have a good day, Dr. B.
Hey, Doc, I just wanted to make sure that you counted me as here.
Oh, let's see. Let's see who's here and who's not.
Same for me, because I had to restart my computer.
I didn't get most people here because a lot of people.
Oh, my internet just decided to crash this morning, so I had to wait for like 40 minutes for it to come back.
Let's see who I got. Let's see who was here and who wasn't. David is here. Ethan, I got you. Ethan Gong, I got you. Nico made it. Christian made it.